I wanted to check in with Steve Adubato, who is a New Jersey TV personality, a political expert, a guy that has been around for a long time and really understands the politics of this state. Because the driving question that a lot of people ask me is, will this gubernatorial contest between Kim Guadagno and Phil Murphy be competitive at all? Steve, good morning, and welcome back to New Jersey 101.5.
Bill, it's always great to be with you, and what are the odds also that both of us are dealing with issues with our voice?
Right. It's amazing, right? I it seems to be going around. I had Ray Lesniak on earlier, and he actually sounded worse than I did. I think I sound worse than you do, but we're somewhere in that range.
Well, listen, we're wishing everyone who's listening on 101.5 just to be healthy and have a strong voice. And I think, speaking of voices, watch this segue that makes no sense. I think there are going to be some interesting voices this fall in the gubernatorial race. I looked at the poll numbers. They do not look good for the lieutenant governor right now, but here's my view. A race for governor, a fall campaign, really takes shape much closer to Election Day. So while I understand those polls right now, I don't think they're going to be as relevant in just a couple of months. I definitely think that Phil Murphy has a strong lead, but Kim Guadagno, if in fact she speaks clearly on issues like property taxes and school funding and this pension crisis and roads and bridges, issues that matter to people listening on your station right now, it could be competitive. I don't know, but right now Murphy has a clear...
Let me ask you, Steve, you know, you've been around the block in Jersey politics, and you've served yourself in the legislature. You've got the experience. What is your take on this idea that Phil Murphy would stand in a debate and absolutely unequivocally say taxes are going to have to be raised, yet you then look at the polls where the number one driving issue that people say the reason they're leaving the state, the reason that they're agitated and upset with politics as usual is because taxes are too high. How does that translate into a 20-point early lead in the polls?
First of all, I can't figure out the polls, but I'll tell you this about Murphy. I actually give him credit for saying what he plans to do, even though he spoke yesterday before the Business and Industry Association, as you well know, and he told business leaders, people who make more than most, he said, look, to do what it is I think we need to do in the state for those who need the most help, we are going to have to raise certain taxes. He's talking about taxes on wealthier New Jerseyans. When he was on our show on PBS State of Affairs, which hopefully we can get Bill Spadea on soon.
Yeah, I'd love to. Let's schedule that.
Well, we will get that done, but I know that he has said things that you are not going to say because he believes that taxes do need to be raised on wealthier New Jerseyans. Listen, I actually give him credit for saying that. Can I explain why, in fact, he has this lead? I don't know. Maybe it's a reaction to the fact that I think Trump does have something to do with this. I think there's an anti-Trump mood. I think that in certain places in New Jersey. And
well, certainly in New Jersey, it's his numbers are not going to be good, and I agree with you.
And Murphy's going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, well, he's smart enough to, but he also talked about the minimum wage at that business group.
Yeah, I got to tell you this.
Shocking.
$15 minimum wage, it scares me, and I'll tell you what. This is where you can sound as if you're insensitive to people who are struggling to make ends meet in such a wealthy state. But here's my view. I actually do think the minimum wage should be raised. I'm not sure it's $15, and I'll tell you why. Because I get worried about and I get concerned about small business people who, in fact, are employing those people who would be forced by government, mandate to pay $15, and whether, in fact, they'd lay off other people or whether, in fact, they would increase their prices or potentially put themselves out of business. As a small business person myself, as an entrepreneur, I'm sensitive to the need to raise the minimum wage, but the $15 sounds great, scares me.
Well, and the reality is that wages across the board would be raised if you created the economic environment that businesses wanted to start here. I mean, that's half the problem. That, I talk about digging in, and I love New Jersey. I know you do too. And I know you're with me on that. You've built your business. You've built your reputation. You've built your media career here in the Garden State. I mean, it's a great place to be. You're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. But man, it's like you talk to business owners and they're scared of that uncertainty. So I guess you could argue, and I think you've said part of it, that Murphy is going to give them the certainty that, look, your regulatory burden is not going to get better, your tax burden is not going to get lighter, but that's his solution to fix it. I don't see how that resonates.
Let me say this about Phil Murphy and about Kim Guadagno. Saying what they're saying right now, and I do give Murphy credit for being very clear about what he wants to do, even if it's unpopular with certain audiences, but I'll say this. When pressed, it's going to be fascinating to hear how both Kim Guadagno and Phil Murphy respond and give you the details of how it's going to be paid for.
Right.
And how, listen, Kim Guadagno argues that she wants to reduce property taxes in a certain way, but I want to say this. How would you actually do that? How does the state provide more dollars to certain communities, right, without raising taxes on certain people? How do you deal with the pension crisis without asking more of state workers or raising taxes? So the devil is always in, I know it's a cliche, in the details of how these folks are going to get this done, and that's what this campaign is going to be about.
Yeah, I agree with you, Steve. Well, look, we'll definitely have you back, and let's work it out. I'd love to come on your show, and where can people find you?
They can find us on the PBS stations here in New Jersey, NJTV, also WHYY in Philadelphia, the PBS affiliate, WNET in New York, and, of course, on FiOS as well, and online, because I know you guys have a great digital presence as well at 101.5, a great station, doing great things every day. Appreciate
Thanks,
it,
Steve.
Bill.